know this is a modern mill channel, but I have to highlight this deck. It's so cool. I used to be an ex-humans player, and this deck is literally making me want to play humans again. So as you know, every so often I throw on some just general modern content onto the channel, so I hope you like this. Let me know if you want to see more. Let me know if you want to see some gameplay of this deck. It's not my own. I'm simply choosing to highlight it. So let's get right into it. The next evolution of modern humans in 2022, thanks to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It has some Death Shadow flavor, got, you know, a whole new meaning to toolbox. It's got everything. Let's get right into it. First and foremost, the list itself. 7th place with a 6-1 finish by user Fluor Spar. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And that was back on February 12th. This deck is generally playing a lot of the same kind of beats. You're seeing kind of 4 Aether Vials, 19 lands, 35 plus creatures, 37 specifically here. A sideboard with cards like Chalice of the Void, lots of creatures, Dismembers. Heck, you're even seeing the Magus of the Movement in there alongside the Aether Vials. So there's a lot of moving parts to a deck like this, and a lot of places where you can add your own plus and minus. But what's different? What makes modern humans different right now in 2022? Let's take a visual look at this guide. And we're seeing a lot of different cards here. Okay, so we're not seeing Kitesail freebooters. We're not seeing, you know, a Phantasmal Image. We're not seeing this grindy mid-range plan, right? That type of toolbox deck where we might be phantasmally imaging Thalia's lieutenants to go wider or go taller, or meddling mages to grind. We're not hitting up cards like Kitesail Freebooter to disrupt our opponent's board wipes or anything like that, because board wipes just aren't really that played in Modern right now. What we're seeing is Imperial Recruiters, Upriser Renegade, and Abzan Falconer. Let's get right into it. So before we do the whole combo itself, we're seeing things like Champion of the Parish, Noble Hierarch, Meddling Mage, Thalia's Lieutenant, Thalia herself, and Reflector Mage. So we see some of the usual suspects. We do see a different land outside of the Ancient Ziggurats, but some of the usual pieces are there. Some of the new pieces like Esper Sentinel, super helpful, as one of the bigger problems with this deck was its ability to draw. So what's nice is we have an Esper Sentinel that even if it gets removed, it's able to at least replace itself. So a lot of times people or our opponent won't have the mana to pay for the tax on Esper Sentinel, and especially once you start boosting it up with all these lieutenants and things like that, they definitely will not. So that's what's nice. It's able to at least replace itself. But let's get into why this deck itself is kind of insane. Upriser Renegade is the new card, uncommon out of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Upriser Renegade gets +2, +0 for each other modified creature you control. So modifications are a term from Kamigawa relating to creatures that have an equipment aura attached to it, equipment attached to it, or a counter on it. So -1/-1 counter, a +1/+1 counter, a flying counter, if we're thinking about like stuff from Ikoria. But this deck is using +1/+1 counters, right? Let's think about that for a second. Upriser Renegade, just a 2-mana 1/3. Could be a little bit bigger. We have things like Abzan Falconer. Now, this is the Death Shadow style one-hit thing that we're getting. So I'm talking about, you know, in Death Shadow, you have cards like Dress Down, which turn the Death Shadow into 13/13. You go in for an alpha swing, and you hit him for $1 billion. Abzan Falconer. What's nice about this is that each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Okay, so Upriser Renegade gets multiple, you know, power boosts for other creatures getting +1/+1, and then we can use Abzan Falconer to put a +1/+1 counter on it, as well as other creatures. And Outlast is going to be, the activated ability on that is actually going to be pretty relevant, because we can get that pretty effectively. The last card I'm going to talk about is the Thalia's Lieutenant. When you play this Thalia's Lieutenant, everything on your board is going to get a +1/+1, which means all those creatures that are now modified are going to count towards the Upriser Renegade. Now think about this Upriser Renegade being a 2-mana, 7/3, 9/3, 11/3 with big boards, and then you play the Abzan Falconer. Everything has flying. Confirmed flying is literally the best mechanic. Like, in terms of evasion, you don't need Shadow, you don't need Menace, you just go with the good old classics, and you hit them with an Alpha Strike. Secluded Courtyard is one I wanted to bring up. Again, coming out of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, 2 cards breathing new life into the modern humans archetype. Coming in untapped, choosing a creature type. It is essentially unclaimed territory, except you can use the colored mana to then activate abilities of creatures. Why is that important? Even though it's only a one of, you can use Secluded Step to activate the Outlast ability on Abzan Falconer. Now, obviously, there are going to be other humans that you might want to add or add here and there to take advantage of that. But that's really going to be the big piece. Right now, Secluded Step is the better upgrade to Ancient Ziggurat. Although Ancient Ziggurat allows you to cast any creature, this deck is now full of pretty much just 90-95% humans. And this is going to be better because Ancient Ziggurat does not cast your Vial. This casts Vial, Aether Vial specifically. So that's what's nice about this, along with the Unclaimed Territory. And then finally, the Adeline is going to be there, Resplendent Cathar, to be that top-end piece, to be going wide. If you have this, it has vigilance, it can stay back on the defense, which is going to be great. It has the ability to block Ragavans, block any 2-3 power creatures that are coming your way, and then in a lot of ways, if you have a wide board, it's going to be able to trade effectively with that as well, creating a bunch of blockers. A weird Goblin Rabblemaster impression in that sense, but I guess Goblin Rabblemaster is really doing an impression of most token generators in white. So there's that. The final piece, the card that really I love Imperial Recruiter. Imperial Recruiter enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, not CMC, power, not toughness either, power 2 or less. Reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle. This card, go back, literally look, this card tutors for every single card in this deck. Every single card. Reflector Mage has 3 toughness, but 2 power. Look at the rest of this deck. Noble Hierarch has 0 power. Torok has 2. This is so good. Heck, even Adeline has 0 power when you're looking through the library. That's right, it has star power. Imperial Recruiter is going to be able to look for other Imperial Recruiters. Then you're going to be able to chain them off into getting Adelines. You're going to be able to get your Thalia's Lieutenant, whatever it is. And the power of this card is simply that, you put it in your hand, but that doesn't really matter because you're going to have cards like Aether Vial that you have access to, allowing you to then respond to interactive spells, instant speed spells, to put those cards from your hand onto the battlefield. This card is just a fantastic way to get the game going. Keep going, keep finding new pieces, the specific hate cards you need, and especially in the sideboard, you're going to be able to get everything if we go back into the deck. Deputy of Detention, 1 power. Again, the Turok in the sideboard, 2 power. Magus of the Moon, 2 power. Sanctifier, 2 power. Everything is tutored by Imperial Recruiter, which is why I love this deck. I really am. I definitely am going to be renting this up super quick. And I mean, if you look at the tick count on it, it's very close to being rented by the rental limit on the base Mana Traders account. But if you have just the normal one that most people have, the $35 a month, it's only 220 ticks. This is the easiest rental ever. I highly recommend all y'all try it out. And really, the big pricey stuff is going to be Cavern of Souls and Esper Sentinel. In a lot of ways, you could probably like bring this stuff down. Actually, yeah. So if you don't play Esper Sentinel, you could bring this down by 50 ticks, and you could really plus or minus a lot of things with the silent clearings. Like, there's a way you can actually get this deck down to the initial Mana Traders rental limit account. So I highly recommend you check this out. When I saw this, I was super excited by the list, so I really wanted to highlight it. Let me know what you think about the deck. Again, I know this is a modern mill channel, but I really wanted to highlight this deck. I think it's super cool, and I'd be surprised to see if this deck doesn't do more, considering the explosiveness and the toolboxy, the different style of toolboxy nature that this version of Modern Humans now has. But hopefully all of y'all can check this deck out, and hopefully, us mill players can see it in our leagues more often, because I would love to be playing more copies of Crypt Incursion, or an excuse to play more copies of Crypt Incursion. But remember that even the impossible is possible, and as we ponder that thought, I hope you'll join me next time as we take a glimpse into the unthinkable.